Hey everyone, and welcome to class. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer. We're going to be exploring some incredibly rich English vocabulary today, starting with the concrete physical homes we live in, and then expanding all the way out to abstract metaphors about life itself. Okay, let's dive into this. So here's our lesson plan for today. 1. Types of homes. 2. House and home idioms. 3. Idioms about life. 4. Our lesson summary. And finally, a pop quiz to test your knowledge.
All right, Section 1, Types of Homes. We are starting with literal, physical dwellings here. Let's start by comparing two absolute extremes. A penthouse is a luxury flat located at the very top of a building. It's spacious, it's expensive, essentially it's a modern mansion, which is the complete opposite of a dump. Now, a more formal word for a dump is a hovel. A hovel is a very small, dirty house or flat in really bad condition, much like a rundown shack. So it's the stark antonym of a palace or a penthouse.
Let's expand our vocabulary a bit on the whiteboard here. A squat is an illegally occupied building where people live without permission. So the synonym is an occupied building. And the antonym is a legal residence. Next, council or social housing. This refers to public, state-provided rented accommodation for folks with low incomes, as opposed to private housing. And a council estate is simply a large group of this public housing. Moving up, we have high-rise flats or tower blocks. These are modern apartments in tall buildings, kind of akin to a skyscraper, and the complete opposite of a low bungalow. Then there's a granny flat. I love this one. It's a sweet term for an annex or a set of rooms for an elderly relative that's entirely separate from the main house. Finally, rented spaces can be furnished, meaning they're fully equipped with furniture, or they can be completely empty, which we call unfurnished. Moving right along to Section 2, House and Home Idioms. Let's move to the figurative and see how this builds.
Our first idiom is to get on like a house on fire. Now, I know a house on fire sounds pretty bad, right? But as an idiom, it actually means you connect instantly with someone. For example, you might say, "Happily, my mother-in-law and I have always got on like a house on fire." It basically means you become fast friends instantly, rather than bitter enemies.
So the crucial point here is how these idioms all relate to familiarity, comfort, or personal impact. A household word or household name is something famous that everyone knows, like Nike. The antonym would be something unknown. If something is on the house, a business is giving it to you for free, not at full price. Home truths, on the other hand, are harsh realities that are true, but really unpleasant to hear, which is quite the opposite of flattering lies. If something is nothing to write home about, it's just average and certainly not spectacular. When a heavy realization hits home, it sinks in and becomes fully understood rather than just going over your head. And finally, to make yourself at home is to relax and get completely comfortable in someone else's space, ensuring you don't feel out of place. Zooming out even further now, Section 3, Idioms about life. Let's contrast two very different paths. Life in the fast lane is a thrilling way of life, full of intense activity and excitement. It's the total opposite of a boring, slow-paced routine. You'd say, as a rock star, Joe lived life in the fast lane. In contrast to that, a dog's life is a miserable existence, a really unhappy and difficult time, rather than a charmed one. For instance, Ryan had a dog's life in the army. Let's look at a few more. To have the time of your life means experiencing absolute joy, not absolute misery. Think of Paula. Paula's having the time of her life in Canada. If you get a new lease of life, you revitalize and become more energetic, basically shaking off stagnation. Now, to lead a sheltered life means you are heavily protected from unpleasantness, like Kyoko's sheltered existence, rather than being exposed to the real world. If a situation is not a matter of life and death, it's trivial, not critical. To take your life in your hands is to risk it all by doing something very dangerous, instead of playing it safe. And finally, to breathe new life into something, like how Orla is helping the school, is to invigorate it with new ideas, rather than draining it.
All right, Section 4, Lesson Summary. Time to review the whiteboard before our pop quiz.
And this brilliantly illustrates our journey today. We started with physical homes, seeing the extreme differences between rundown hovels and luxurious penthouses. We then explored how the literal word home creates idioms expressing comfort and truth, like making yourself at home. Finally, we expanded to life idioms, using language to describe our energy, our risks, and our varied experiences, from living a dog's life to having the time of your life. Mastering literal words absolutely helps us understand these complex figurative expressions.
Section 5, Pop Quiz. Let's see if you were paying attention.
Here is your first question. Listen carefully. If Joe is a famous rock star,
Who goes to exciting parties every single night? What kind of life is he living? Think back to our life idioms. Got a guess?
Life in the fast lane. Excellent job if you remember that one. You are officially top of the class today. Let's do another one.
Question 2. Imagine you're at a cafe. If a restaurant owner decides not to charge you for your coffees, remember, the synonym we used here was free of charge, what idiom do we use? I'll give you a hint. It has the word house in it.
On the house. That's right. The coffees are on the house. Brilliant work.
To conclude our explainer today, I want to leave you with one final provocative question. I want you to actively apply this vocabulary. Look back at the life idioms we studied today. Are you getting a new lease of life? Are you having the time of your life? Which idiom would you use to describe your life right now and why? Think about that, use your new vocabulary out in the real world, and keep learning. Class dismissed.